Just my audience, they're all over the age of 18. Take 2,000. Now imagine a food so humble that it was once considered to be poor people's food. Yet it was so important that it helped shape an entire nation's culinary identity. In fact, this food has been eaten in Italy for thousands of years, and it still is today. Not pasta, not pizza, beans. Most of us think of beans as a side dish, maybe a protein substitute, something tossed into chili even. But in Italy, beans carry deep historical, cultural, and regional significance. Today we'll be discussing 3 articles. The first is Food History and Gastronomic Traditions of Beans in Italy. The second is Italian Identity in the Kitchen by Montanari. And the third is Italian Cuisine, a Cultural History by Capatti. And through those 3 articles, we'll be going through 3 things. The first, the historical origins. Second, the cultural significance. And third, the modern importance. What do beans mean today in Italy? Now, the historical origins. Just as Corrado said, beans became widespread in Italy just after the Columbian Exchange and were easily cultivated across multiple regions. After the 1492 voyages of Christopher Columbus, the Columbian Exchange introduced New World crops. Some of these included several varieties of beans, specifically to Europe. Their resilience meant they could grow in poor soils where other protein sources as livestock, cows, sheep, goats, things of this matter, were not available or reliable. This agricultural adaptability helped beans integrate quickly into everyday Italian diets because they had no choice. It was either eat beans or die and starve to death. Same as widespread cultivation. They can be grown in small pots, huge fields, even in some rural areas where they had small little gardens or farms. They required little to no maintenance and were known to be very easily cultivated, the crop that anybody could grow. Because the beans were stored so well when dried, they provided food security during long cold winters when growing crops wasn't an option and they had to rely on their food stores. And a lot of times that was beans. They were also an affordable protein source. As you know, a human body needs protein to survive. Without protein, a human body cannot function. Meat was expensive, often reserved for wealthy households or special occasions. So, their alternative was beans. Beans offered a plant-based protein alternative, and it could sustain laborers and peasants because it was so cheap that sometimes people had no option but to purchase beans because they couldn't afford anything else. This affordability contributed to their rapid normalization in daily diets. They were known as a peasant staple food. Beans became foundational in their diets. Often combined with bread, grains, and vegetables, they would be significantly adapted to their daily diets. And over time, what began a necessity evolved into culinary tradition. As food historian Massimo says, staple foods often define long-term dietary identity. And now, while beans began as a practical necessity, they gradually took on deeper cultural meaning in Italian society. They became a rural tradition. In rural Italy, beans symbolized sustenance, humility, and connection to the land. Many farming families passed down bean-based recipes through generations. Seasonal harvest cycles often revolved around preserving legumes for winter use because they wouldn't be able to survive in the winter without their food stores. There were regional variations. Northern, central, southern Italy, they each developed distinct bean propagations. They each had their own species of beans that thrive best in their soil, in their climate, and their weather. For example, Tuscan cuisine is known for simple preparations that highlight the bean itself rather than heavy seasoning. Regional pride often centers around specific local varieties, and these variations demonstrate how a single ingredient can reflect Italy's regional diversity. Just as Montanari says, food plays a central role in shaping both national and regional identity in Italy. According to food historian Massimo, food is not merely nourishment, it constructs identity. While Italy unified politically in the 19th century, culinary traditions like bean dishes had long helped shape regional identity. Thus, beans are part of Italy's social fabric, not just its cuisine. Now, just as I said in the intro, Italy In beans, beans in Italy were known as poor man's food, sometimes poor man's meat. They were often referred to this because they replaced expensive animal protein, because a lot of Italy's society and citizens were not very wealthy people. However, over time, what was once associated with poverty became appreciated for authenticity and tradition. Today, that same label often symbolizes rustic heritage rather than deprivation. And although beans originated as a humble necessity, they remain highly relevant in modern Italian cuisine. Just, just like I said, this modern importance. Traditional recipes, traditional dishes like pasta e fagioli continue to appear in Italian households. These dishes preserve historical cooking methods and regional flavor profiles. They are seen on many restaurant menus. They hold great nutritional value. They have protein, fiber, iron, fats that are needed in the human daily diet. They are sustainable for farming still today. You know, farming hasn't changed. People still farm their food. People still need to live off the land to survive. And they do this because of how little beans are reflected of the change in climate, the change in weather. They're strong, firm crops that can be grown year-round. Just as Capati and Montanari says, staple foods such as legumes remain essential in Italian dietary traditions. Scholars like this emphasize that staple foods endure because they are deeply embedded in this culture. This continually reinforces the historical thread connecting past and present. From their introduction after the Columbian Exchange to their presence on modern menus, they complete a historical full circle. Beans have shaped Italian history, culture, cuisine for centuries and still do today. They hold a lot of history, a lot of valuable culture, and still play a modern role. And as always, make sure to remember the bean. What seems like a simple ingredient carries centuries of history. They demonstrate how food connects economics, geography, identity, and tradition. And the next time you encounter a dish of beans, remember, it is known as poor man's meat. This is my audience. Hey.